You can't just steal my designs and pass them off as your own. Everyone here needs to see this, your designs.
Please, you signed the contract.
The wrench slipped from my greasy fingers and clattered against the concrete floor of my garage. Midnight had come and gone, but sleep wasn't an option when your ancient Ford pickup decided to have transmission issues on a Tuesday. I wiped my hands on an oil-stained rag and glanced at the house through the grimy window. Every light was off except the porch lamp, casting long shadows across our overgrown front yard. My name is Darren Halloway, and I've been fixing engines for the better part of 15 years in this forgotten corner of New England. Mill Creek isn't the kind of place people dream about. It's where dreams come to rust, like the abandoned textile factory that looms over our neighborhood like a monument to better times. The phone buzzed against my hip, vibrating through the silence. I almost ignored it. Nothing good ever came from calls after midnight, especially in a town where gossip traveled faster than the volunteer fire department. Darren? The voice belonged to my sister-in-law, Jovie. She sounded like she'd been crying, or maybe drinking, possibly both. "What's wrong?" I asked, setting down my tools and walking toward the house. The porch creaked under my boots. "I need you to come somewhere, right now. Jovie, it's past midnight. Can't this wait until? Ayla's with Kellan." The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I stopped walking and gripped the phone tighter. "What did you just say?" "Your wife is at the Riverside Motel with my husband, room 12. I've been sitting in the parking lot for an hour watching them through the window." I closed my eyes and leaned against the porch railing. The wood was damp from the evening fog, and somewhere in the distance a train whistle echoed through the valley. Ayla had told me she was attending a late charity meeting for the hospital fundraiser. She'd kissed my cheek before leaving, her perfume lingering in the hallway long after her car disappeared down Maple Street. "You sure it's them?" "I'm looking at her car right now. That stupid bumper sticker she got from the yoga studio is still there, and Kellan's motorcycle is parked right next to it." I should have felt anger. I should have felt betrayal. Instead, I felt something colder, more calculating, like the moment in the army when you realize the enemy has walked into your trap. "Don't do anything," I said. "I'm coming." I grabbed my jacket and car keys, then paused at the kitchen counter where Ayla had left her coffee mug from this morning. The lipstick stain on the rim looked different now, like evidence instead of affection. The drive to Riverside Motel took 12 minutes through empty streets lined with boarded-up shops and flickering streetlights. Mill Creek looked even more pathetic at night, when the shadows could hide the peeling paint and broken windows. Jovie's Honda was parked behind a dumpster at the far end of the motel lot. I pulled up beside her and rolled down my window. She looked terrible. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, her usually perfect hair hanging in tangled strands. "How long have you known?" I asked. "I suspected for weeks. Kellan's been acting strange, taking phone calls in the bathroom, working late on projects that don't exist." She wiped her nose with a tissue. "I hired a private investigator last month." "And you're just telling me now?" I was hoping I was wrong. I was hoping, her voice cracked. I was hoping my husband wasn't sleeping with my sister. I stared across the parking lot at room 12. The curtains were drawn, but light spilled around the edges, and I could see shadows moving inside. My wife of 8 years was in there with Kellan Cauldron, the man I'd considered a friend since high school. "What do you want to do?" Jovie asked. I thought about it for a moment. I could march over there and start shouting. I could call them both and demand explanations. I could go home and pretend this never happened, like so many other husbands in similar situations, or I could be smart about it. "You got your phone?" I asked. She nodded. "Good. We're going to document everything, every detail, every moment, every lie they've been telling us, and then we're going to make them pay for it." Jovie stared at me with a mixture of surprise and admiration. "You're not going to confront them. Not yet. First we gather evidence, then we plan, then we execute." I opened my car door. Revenge is a dish best served cold, and I intend to freeze them out completely. We spent the next 2 hours taking pictures and recording video through the motel room window. The curtains weren't completely closed, and what we saw confirmed everything Jovie had suspected. My wife and her husband were having an affair, and they weren't being subtle about it. By 3 a.m, we had enough evidence to end both their marriages and destroy their reputations. But as I drove home through the empty streets, I realized that wasn't enough. They'd humiliated us, betrayed our trust, and made fools of us in front of the entire town. I wanted them to suffer the way we were suffering. I wanted them to lose everything they cared about, the same way they'd destroyed everything I cared about. I wanted revenge. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and a legal pad, making lists. Assets, debts, mutual friends, family connections, professional relationships, everything that mattered to Ayla and Kellan, everything they valued, everything they'd worked to build. Ayla came home at 6:30 in the morning, slipping through the front door like a teenager sneaking past curfew. She found me in the kitchen, still wearing yesterday's clothes, surrounded by paperwork. "You're up early," she said, trying to sound casual while pouring herself coffee. Her hair was different, messier than usual, and her makeup had been reapplied recently. "Never went to bed. Truck problems." I gestured toward the garage. "How was the charity meeting?" "Long. Boring. You know how these hospital fundraiser committees can be." She sat across from me, and I caught a whiff of unfamiliar cologne mixed with her perfume. "We raised over $12,000, though." "That's wonderful. I'm sure the hospital appreciates your dedication." I kept my voice neutral, almost friendly. "Especially working so late on a Tuesday night." She smiled and reached across the table to squeeze my hand. "I know it's been difficult with my schedule lately. All these meetings and events, but it's important work." "Absolutely. Community service is so admirable." I squeezed back, noting how her wedding ring had shifted slightly, like it had been removed and put back on. "I'm proud of you." After she left for work, I called in sick to the garage and drove to the public library. Mill Creek's library was one of the few buildings in town that hadn't fallen into complete disrepair, thanks to a wealthy donor who'd grown up here before, making his fortune in Boston. I spent 4 hours researching divorce law, asset protection, and evidence gathering. I learned about no-fault versus fault-based divorce proceedings, community property rights, and how adultery affected spousal support calculations in our state. I took notes on everything, building a comprehensive strategy. At noon, I met Jovie at Murphy's Diner, a greasy spoon restaurant that served as the unofficial headquarters for Mill Creek gossip. We sat in a corner booth, speaking quietly while the lunch crowd discussed local politics and high school football. "I confronted Kellan this morning," Jovie said, stirring sugar into her coffee with shaking hands. "Showed him some of the pictures." "What did he say?" "He denied everything at first. Said the photos were misleading, that he was just comforting Ayla because she was upset about something. Then I showed him the video of them kissing, and he broke down completely." I leaned forward. "What kind of breakdown?" "Crying, apologizing, begging me not to leave him. He said it started 3 months ago after some work event where they both had too much to drink. He claims it meant nothing, that he loves me, that he'll do anything to save our marriage." "Do you believe him?" Jovie laughed bitterly. "I believed him when he said he was working late. I believed him when he said those phone calls were about business opportunities. I believed him when he said he needed to borrow money from our savings account for a sure-thing investment." She met my eyes. "I'm done believing Kellan Cauldron." "Good. What about the money?" "What money?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the bank records I'd accessed that morning. Ayla's been moving money from our joint account into a separate savings account for the past 6 months. Small amounts, nothing I'd notice unless I was looking for it. But it adds up to almost $8,000. Jovie stared at the screen. "You think they're planning to run away together?" "I think they're planning something, and I think we need to be ready for it." We spent the next hour developing our strategy. Jovie would continue gathering evidence while pretending to consider reconciliation with Kellan. I would secure our assets and begin building legal cases against both of them. Most importantly, we'd coordinate our responses to maximize the damage. "There's something else," Jovie said as we prepared to leave. "My private investigator found out about other people." "Other people?" "Other affairs. Kellan's been cheating on me for over a year, not just with Ayla. There's a waitress from the casino, a woman from his gym, probably others." Her voice hardened. "He's not just a cheater, he's a predator." I felt that cold calculation settling over me again. This wasn't just about one affair or one betrayal. This was about a pattern of deception that had been going on right under our noses. "We're going to destroy them," I said quietly. Jovie nodded. "Completely." That afternoon, I visited 3 different lawyers, a private investigator, and my bank. By evening, I had frozen our joint accounts, filed for separation, and hired professionals to document every aspect of Ayla's infidelity. I also changed the locks on our house and forwarded copies of the motel evidence to my attorney. When Ayla came home from work, she found her key wouldn't turn in the front door lock. I opened the door before she could start knocking and handed her a manila envelope. "Your things are packed and waiting in the garage. The legal documents are in the envelope. You have 30 minutes to collect your belongings and leave." Her face went through several emotions: confusion, shock, anger, and finally calculation. "Darren, what is this about?" What legal documents? Separation papers, adultery evidence, bank records showing your secret savings account, photos and video from last night at the Riverside Motel. I stepped aside so she could see the suitcases stacked in the hallway. Did I miss anything important? She tried to push past me into the house, but I blocked her path. You can't do this. This is my house, too. I have rights. Actually, you don't. The house is in my name only, inherited from my grandmother. Your rights ended when you decided to have an affair with my sister's husband. I handed her the car keys. Your car is packed. Your lawyer's contact information is in the envelope. Don't come back here. This is insane. You're overreacting to something that can be explained. Room 12, Riverside Motel, Tuesday night from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. Kellan's motorcycle parked next to your car. Video evidence of intimate contact through the window. I met her eyes. Explain that. Her composure finally cracked. How long have you known? Long enough to protect myself legally and financially, not long enough to warn you that your entire life was about to fall apart. I stepped back and began closing the door. 30 minutes, Ayla. Then I call the police and have you removed for trespassing. She stood on the porch for a moment, staring at me like she'd never seen me before. Then she turned and walked toward the garage, her heels clicking against the concrete with sharp, angry sounds. I watched through the window as she loaded her belongings into her car, making phone calls between trips. Probably calling Kellan, maybe calling her lawyer, definitely calling her mother. By tomorrow morning, half the town would know about our separation. Good. Let them talk. Let them choose sides. Let them see what happens when you betray Darren Halloway. The real revenge was just beginning. The Mill Creek Gossip Network moved faster than broadband internet. By Thursday morning, everyone from the grocery store clerk to the Methodist church pastor knew about Ayla's affair. Small towns are like ecosystems. Disturb one element, and the ripples spread everywhere. I discovered this when I stopped at Henderson's Hardware to buy new locks for the basement door. Old Pete Henderson, who'd been running the store since the Carter administration, greeted me with a mixture of sympathy and curiosity. Heard you and Ayla are having some troubles, he said, ringing up my purchases with deliberate slowness. Pete never missed an opportunity to extract information. News travels fast, especially when it involves the Cauldron Boy and his wandering ways. Pete leaned across the counter conspiratorially. Between you and me, this ain't his first rodeo. That boy's been stepping out on Jovie since before they got married. I raised an eyebrow. You don't say. Oh, I do say. My nephew works security at the casino. He's seen Kellan there plenty of nights when he was supposed to be working late. Usually with different women, if you catch my meaning. This was exactly the kind of intelligence I needed. Sounds like Jovie deserves better. That girl's a saint for putting up with him this long, and your Ayla, well, I always thought she was a bit too ambitious for Mill Creek, always talking about moving to Boston, getting a better job, upgrading her lifestyle. Pete shook his head. Guess she figured Kellan was her ticket out. I paid for the locks and left with a clearer picture of the situation. Ayla hadn't just cheated, she'd been planning an exit strategy. The secret savings account, the late meetings, the sudden interest in Kellan's business ventures. It all made sense now. My phone buzzed with a text from Jovie. Coffee at Murphy's? Need to talk. I found her in our usual corner booth, looking more composed than she had 2 days ago. She'd done something different with her hair and was wearing makeup again. Good signs. How are you holding up? I asked, sliding into the seat across from her. Better than expected. I filed for divorce yesterday, and my lawyer says I have an excellent case for asset recovery. She sipped her coffee. Kellan's been calling constantly, begging me to reconsider. He's even offered to go to counseling. What did you tell him? I told him the time for counseling was before he started cheating, not after he got caught. Her smile was sharp and satisfied. He's staying at his brother's place now. Apparently his brother's wife isn't too happy about the situation either. Why not? Because she's friends with me, and because she's always suspected Kellan was trouble. Jovie leaned forward. Here's the interesting part. She told me that Kellan's been bragging about some big business deal that was going to make him rich. Something about a partnership with Ayla's company. I felt the pieces clicking into place. What kind of partnership? Public relations consulting. Apparently, Kellan convinced Ayla that he could help her start her own PR firm, competing directly with her current employer. They were planning to steal clients and start their own business together. Using the money from your savings account and mine. Exactly. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning to steal from both of us to fund their new life together. I sat back in the booth, processing this information. The betrayal was even deeper than I'd realized. They hadn't just broken their marriage vows. They'd been planning to commit theft and fraud. We need to warn Ayla's employer, I said. Already done. I called Peterson Marketing this morning and spoke with Ayla's supervisor. Told them about the affair and the business plan. They're conducting an internal investigation. What about Kellan's other business ventures? Jovie's smile widened. Funny you should ask. I spent yesterday going through his financial records. I still have access to his accounts until the divorce is finalized. Turns out most of his business opportunities have been gambling debts and failed investment schemes. He owes money to some very unpleasant people. How much money? Close to $30,000. That's why he needed the money from our savings accounts. He's been juggling creditors for months. This was better than I'd hoped. Kellan wasn't just a cheater and a thief. He was a desperate man making increasingly poor decisions. Desperate people make mistakes, and mistakes create opportunities. What's our next move? I asked. I'm thinking we need to accelerate the timeline. Make them panic, force them into doing something stupid. Jovie pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot of a text conversation. Kellan's been trying to convince Ayla to loan him money to pay off his gambling debts. She's been stalling, probably because she realizes he's a liability. So their partnership is already falling apart. Like a house of cards in a windstorm, we just need to give it one more push. I thought about this for a moment, considering our options. Direct confrontation would be satisfying, but ultimately counterproductive. Legal action would take months and might not recover our losses. But social pressure, that was something we could control. What if we made their affair public in a way that destroyed both their reputations and their business plans? What did you have in mind? I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I was looking for. Remember Janet Morrison from high school? She runs the Mill Creek Community Facebook page now. Over 3,000 members, including most of our mutual friends and family. Jovie's eyes lit up with understanding. You want to post the evidence online? Not just post it, create a narrative. Tell the story of two married people who betrayed their spouses, stole money, and planned to defraud local businesses, make them social pariahs. That's brilliant, and completely legal. Better than legal, it's effective. By the time we're done, neither of them will be able to show their faces in this town again. We spent the next hour crafting our strategy. Jovie would handle the family connections, reaching out to relatives and mutual friends with carefully edited versions of the story. I would focus on the business community, making sure everyone knew about Kellan's debts and Ayla's professional misconduct. Most importantly, we would coordinate the timing to maximize impact. Friday afternoon, when people were checking social media before the weekend, we would release everything simultaneously. There's one more thing, Jovie said as we prepared to leave. I want to make sure they know this is coming from us. I want them to understand that we're not victims, we're adversaries. What do you suggest? A warning. Something that lets them know we're in control of the situation. I thought about this for a moment, then smiled. I have an idea. That evening, I drove to Kellan's brother's house and left a manila envelope on the doorstep. Inside was a single photograph from the motel, along with a handwritten note. This is just the beginning. You have 24 hours to make things right, or everyone in Mill Creek will see what we saw. Choose wisely. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. By Friday morning, both Ayla and Kellan were calling constantly, leaving increasingly frantic voicemails. I let every call go to voicemail, building a collection of their panic and desperation. The real show was about to begin. Friday afternoon arrived with unseasonable warmth and clear skies. Perfect weather for destroying lives. I sat in my garage with a beer and my laptop, watching the Mill Creek Community Facebook page refresh every few seconds as our carefully orchestrated campaign went live. Jovie had started at exactly 3 p.m. with a heartfelt post about betrayal and family loyalty. She'd included just enough detail to spark curiosity without revealing everything, ending with a promise to share the whole truth in the comments. Within minutes, dozens of people were asking questions and offering support. At 3:15, I posted the business angle, a concerned citizen warning about unethical practices in the local PR industry. I mentioned no names, but provided enough context clues that anyone paying attention could connect the dots. The response was immediate and overwhelming. By 4 o'clock, Janet Morrison had called me directly. Darren, what the hell is going on? My page is exploding with comments about Ayla and Kellan. People are demanding answers, and some of them are getting pretty nasty. Just sharing information with the community, Janet. People have a right to know when local business owners are planning to defraud their employers. Do you have proof of these allegations? I sent her a carefully edited video file and a collection of financial documents. See for yourself. The silence on the other end of the phone lasted nearly a minute. When Janet spoke again, her voice was different. Harder, more professional. This is serious stuff, Darren. If I post this evidence, there's no going back. Their reputations will be finished. They finished their own reputations when they decided to betray their families and steal money. I'm just making sure the community knows what kind of people they really are. Give me an hour to review everything. If it checks out, I'll post a comprehensive summary with the evidence. At 5:30, Janet's post went live. She'd titled it, Community Alert, Fraud and Adultery Investigation, and included a detailed timeline of events, supporting documentation, and a clear statement that the evidence had been verified by multiple sources. The response was nuclear. Within an hour, the post had over 200 comments and had been shared dozens of times. People were tagging Ayla and Kellan directly, demanding explanations. Others were sharing their own stories about suspicious behavior they'd witnessed. The Mill Creek gossip network had transformed into a digital lynch mob. My phone rang at 7 p.m. Ayla's name appeared on the screen, and for the first time in days, I answered. "You bastard," she said without preamble. "You've destroyed everything." I didn't destroy anything. I just shared information. Public information, documented evidence, verifiable facts. I kept my voice calm and reasonable. If your reputation is destroyed, it's because of your own actions. This is harassment. This is defamation. I'm calling my lawyer. Please do. I'm sure your lawyer will be fascinated by the evidence of your affair, your theft, and your plans to defraud Peterson Marketing. I'm especially curious to hear their legal opinion about the secret savings account. That money was stolen from your husband to fund your new life with your sister's husband. Yes, I know. Everyone knows now. The silence stretched between us, filled with 8 years of marriage dissolving into mutual hatred. "What do you want?" she finally asked. "I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I want you to realize that betraying people has a price, and I want you to know that this is just the beginning." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not done with you yet. You and Kellan thought you could steal from us, lie to us, and humiliate us without facing any consequences. You were wrong." I hung up before she could respond. Kellan called 10 minutes later, his voice slurred with alcohol and desperation. "Darren, we need to talk. This has gotten out of hand. We can work something out." "There's nothing to work out, Kellan. You made your choice when you decided to sleep with my wife and steal my money. Now you get to live with the consequences. I never stole anything from you." The $8,000 Ayla moved from our joint account into her savings account. The money she was planning to loan you to pay off your gambling debts? That's theft, Kellan, and now everyone knows about it. Those were legitimate business expenses. For a business that doesn't exist, planning to steal clients from Ayla's employer? Yes, I know about that too. Peterson Marketing knows about it. The Better Business Bureau knows about it. Your creditors know about it. The phone went quiet, except for the sound of Kellan's heavy breathing. "You've ruined us," he whispered. "No, Kellan. You ruined yourselves. I just made sure everyone else found out about it." Saturday morning brought a new wave of consequences. Ayla called to inform me that Peterson Marketing had terminated her employment effective immediately. Kellan left a rambling voicemail explaining that his brother had kicked him out and he was living in his car. But the most satisfying call came from Jovie. "You're not going to believe this," she said, laughing for the first time in weeks. Kellan's creditors saw the Facebook posts and figured out he's broke. 3 of them showed up at his brother's house this morning looking for him. "What kind of creditors?" "The kind that don't accept payment plans. He owes money to some casino loan sharks, and they're not happy about his financial situation becoming public knowledge." I felt a moment of concern. Is he in actual danger? Probably, but that's not our problem anymore. Jovie's voice hardened. He should have thought about that before he decided to gamble away our savings and cheat on me with my sister. "What's your next move?" "I'm meeting with my lawyer Monday morning to finalize the divorce papers. I should be able to recover most of our assets, plus damages for the affair and the theft. What about you?" I looked around my garage at the tools and projects that represented my simple, honest life. "I'm thinking about leaving Mill Creek, starting over somewhere else." "Running away?" "Moving on. There's nothing left for me here except bad memories and gossip. I've got enough money saved to relocate, maybe open my own shop in a different town." "What about Ayla?" I thought about my wife, ex-wife, and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. Ayla made her choice. Now she gets to live with it, alone. Sunday evening, I was packing boxes in my living room when someone knocked on my front door. I looked through the peephole and saw a woman I didn't recognize, well-dressed, professional, carrying a briefcase. "Mr. Halloway, my name is Patricia Stevens. I'm an attorney representing Ayla Halloway. I'd like to discuss a settlement offer." I opened the door but didn't invite her in. What kind of settlement? My client is prepared to return the money she removed from your joint accounts, plus interest, in exchange for your agreement to stop the social media campaign and remove the evidence from public forums. And if I refuse? Then she'll be forced to pursue legal remedies for harassment and defamation. I laughed out loud. Tell your client that the truth is an absolute defense against defamation charges. Tell her that sharing evidence of criminal behavior isn't harassment, it's public service. And tell her that if she wants the social media campaign to stop, she should have thought about that before she decided to cheat on me and steal my money. Patricia Stevens looked uncomfortable. Mr. Halloway, my client is prepared to make this very expensive for you. Legal fees alone could... Could what? Bankrupt me? I'm a mechanic, lady. I don't have anything worth taking. But your client, she's got a career to protect, a reputation to maintain, family relationships to preserve. Who do you think has more to lose in a prolonged legal battle? The lawyer left without another word. Monday morning, I called Janet Morrison and asked her to post one final update to the Mill Creek Community Facebook page. This one was short and simple. Thank you to everyone who has supported me and Jovie during this difficult time. We're both moving forward with our lives and putting this chapter behind us. To those who betrayed our trust, you know who you are. We hope you've learned that actions have consequences. Mill Creek is a small town with a long memory. Choose your future behavior accordingly. By Wednesday, Ayla had left town. According to the Gossip Network, she'd moved in with her mother in Hartford and was looking for work in a different industry. Kellan had disappeared entirely. Some said he'd fled to avoid his creditors. Others claimed he was in rehab. I didn't care where they went or what happened to them next. My revenge was complete. 3 months later, I was rebuilding carburetors in a garage in Millfield, Vermont, a town small enough that everyone minded their own business and large enough that my past didn't matter. I'd sold the house in Mill Creek, paid off my debts, and started fresh with a clean slate and a clear conscience. The divorce had been finalized without contest. Ayla recovered her personal belongings and half of our minimal shared assets, while I kept the house, my tools, and my self-respect. More importantly, she'd been forced to return every penny she'd stolen, plus penalties and interest. Jovie had fared even better. Her divorce settlement included full recovery of their savings, plus damages for adultery and fraud. She'd used the money to buy a small house near her sister in New Hampshire and had started working as a bookkeeper for a local business. We stayed in touch through occasional phone calls and text messages. She seemed happier than she'd been in years, and I was genuinely glad for her. We'd been through hell together, and we'd emerged stronger on the other side. The Mill Creek Community Facebook page had moved on to other scandals, a city council corruption investigation, a high school teacher arrested for embezzlement, the usual small-town drama. Ayla and Kellan had become footnotes in the community's collective memory, cautionary tales about the price of betrayal. I thought about them sometimes, usually when I was working alone in the garage and my mind wandered. I wondered if they'd learned anything from the experience, if they regretted their choices, if they ever thought about the lives they'd destroyed in pursuit of their selfish desires. Then I'd remember the humiliation, the lies, the theft, and the complete disregard for everyone they'd hurt, and I'd stop caring about their fate. Some people deserve second chances. Others deserve exactly what they get. On a Thursday afternoon in late September, I was installing a new transmission in a customer's pickup truck, when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Ayla. I need to talk to you. It's important." I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Whatever she wanted, forgiveness, closure, another chance to manipulate the situation, I wasn't interested. I'd moved on with my life, and she was part of my past now. A painful, expensive lesson in trusting the wrong person, but ultimately just another chapter in my story. The truck's engine turned over on the first try, purring like a satisfied cat. I smiled and wiped my hands on a clean rag. There was something deeply satisfying about fixing things that were broken, about taking something damaged and making it work properly again. My phone buzzed again, another message from Ayla. "Please, Darren, I know I don't deserve it, but I need your help." This time, I blocked the number entirely. I'd spent 8 years trying to fix my marriage to Ayla, making excuses for her behavior, overlooking her selfishness, believing her lies. I'd wasted enough time and energy on that broken relationship. Some things could be repaired, others needed to be discarded and replaced with something better. I was building something better now, a new life, a new business, a new identity, in a place where nobody knew about my past failures and betrayals. I was Darren Halloway, master mechanic and small business owner. The man who'd been betrayed and humiliated in Mill Creek was gone, replaced by someone stronger and wiser. My customer arrived to pick up his truck just as I was closing the garage for the day. He was a local farmer named Bill Thompson, a straightforward man who paid his bills on time and never complained about the cost of honest work. Runs like new, I told him, handing over the keys. Should give you another 100,000 miles without major problems. What do I owe you? I quoted him a fair price for quality work, and he paid without hesitation. You do good work, Darren. I'll be recommending you to my neighbors. I appreciate that, Bill. After he left, I locked up the garage and walked to my apartment above the hardware store across the street. It wasn't much, 2 rooms and a kitchenette, but it was mine, paid for with honest money and free of bad memories. I made dinner, watched the news, and went to bed early. Tomorrow would bring new customers, new challenges, new opportunities to build the life I wanted instead of the one that had been forced on me. I slept peacefully for the first time in years, dreaming of clean slates and fresh starts, of second chances earned through hard work and integrity. In Mill Creek, the gossips were probably still talking about the Halloway cauldron scandal, dissecting every detail and speculating about what had happened to the main players. Let them talk. Their opinions didn't matter anymore. I'd gotten my revenge, learned my lessons, and moved on with my life. The past was behind me, and the future was mine to build. Some stories end with forgiveness and reconciliation, others end with justice and consequences. This was one of the latter.